Hello and welcome to WhatKeepsYouAwake.tv. It's time again to dive into the hustles, the hurdles, and the highs that keep small business leaders up at night. I'm your host, David Hooser, and I'm once again joined by today's guest, Dr. Eric Bloom. Good to have you back, sir.
Thank you.
We talked a lot about your practice and your journey. Wanted to cover a little bit an area that, like you said, isn't as covered by illness-based medical, but critical to especially our audience of entrepreneurs, ideas, alternative strategies, and wellness type approaches to keeping your physical health. So, so that you're more efficient in your day-to-day activities.
Yeah.
So I know you have been implementing a complete, service offering that's wellness-based. So what does that mean in the area of physical therapy?
Yeah, so I think it's a new kind of growing dynamic. I think in PT especially, so you come in, let's say you've had surgery, you've had an injury. Well, what do you do when you're gone? And so we got to figure out a way within the medical field to minimize return for somebody getting hurt to maximize benefit once they're gone. And so there's been a lot of work and studies that have looked into a lot of this stuff. So when we think about wellness, I think it's just like your body's like a pie, right? So you've got nutrition is kind of a part.
Okay.
You got exercise, you got sleep, like all of these factors with it. And that kind of preventative wellness is a side that I think it missed a lot. So I was on a project a few years ago where we had to try to figure out how to implement different modalities, equipment, things for people to be able to allow them to be more preventative and really stay healthy, not get into that sick model like we were talking about in the illness model. How do you stay into that healthy component that's efficient, effective? Because we know we're all busy. Even, business owners are probably the most busy, but even just a regular person right now with their life, with the way, things have changed, that there's a lot that's going on with everybody. So we've looked into a lot of different research on what are different modalities out there that don't take a lot of time, that are really effective. And so a lot of our
things that
stuff,
you mean that I could do at home.
Correct. Yeah. And so we have some of these things in our office, and our company has created or partnered with other groups where people go then purchase or use things on their own. So the whole premise so my wellness site is called Unwind Wellness. And so
Unwind. Okay.
Yep. So Unwind is partnering with, the Bloom Performance side in clinic with it. So I always was wondering, so what do we do with people when they're gone? Like, we can give them an exercise program, right? Most people are pretty good, but there's got to be other things that are researched out there. So a big trend and things that are kind of coming out is like red light therapy. You'll hear a lot about.
Okay.
So we do that.
Sure.
We do what's called.
But you do that in your center.
Yeah. So we have 2 beds in our center that we've actually built and manufactured ourselves, with me doing the research on specific lighting and things like that. And then we've turned that into kind of handhelds that people can buy, so that when they're through with whatever treatment they want, our goal is for you not to be with us forever.
Sure.
If it is, you're still stuck in the same system with it. Our goal is to maybe maximize the change early on, than to be able to allow you to be preventing things on your own. So the model that we've had.
But those red lights, number one, there's a lot on the market. So,
absolutely.
I go buy something that I think, it's a red light, but not really doing much for me. And some of them are pretty expensive.
They are. Yeah. The cost is definitely up there. So I'm kind of glad you brought that up. So our whole premise with our Unwind business is that you don't have to be wealthy to be healthy.
Okay.
And so when you look at a lot of that stuff, it's very expensive, right? And so a lot of this, just in the Arizona area, you'll find a whole lot more in Scottsdale and Paradise Valley than you will in kind of outer suburbs,
Glendale,
like Mesa and Glendale and some things like that. And so we wanted to try to find a way where, if we could cut out the middleman, how can we provide that service in office, and then be able to have transition people into their own units to be able to help manage on themselves. So that's really what our goal is trying to be. And so we also add what's called PEMF, and it's pulsed electromagnetic field.
Okay.
That actually has a lot of research with the red light, originally from NASA.
So you add it in the bed?
So it's its own little separate area. Yep. Okay. So our main 3 that we're doing are the red light, the PEMF, and then what's called EWOT. So it's exercise with oxygen. All of them can be done in office with it to help transfer and transform that body into really there's cell changes that you can't make on your own. So someone comes in to see me, like, your back hurts. Well, I can only do so much. Like, I'm not going to get into that cellular level change. And so I'm doing the research on all of these different devices to figure out what does the research show of the people that are doing the research on all of these things.
Sure.
How do I then figure out how to implement it clinically? And then for a way for them to be able to take this stuff at home on their own to maximize that gain. So I always tell people, the longer you're in my office, then I'm probably not doing something right. Now, if you're transitioning to wellness and you love to come in here and you want to use that on your own, that's a different dynamic.
Well, a lot of people don't have room. I mean,
for sure.
It's homes today, your average home size is shrinking.
Yeah.
Even though the price is going up,
Yeah.
the house size, it's shrinking. A lot of people are, in apartment living and life.
Yeah.
You don't have a lot of room for,
No.
A red light bed.
And so I did a lot of work and created one of the first upright beds.
Okay.
And so I did it specifically for space size, but you come into my office and you're working out and you're kind of hot, sweaty. No one really wants to go lay down on something that's plastic and uncomfortable. And so we did specifically for that. So a lot of our people that may work out, have had, injuries, post-op stuff, have noted that immediately some of the soreness and discomfort that they were having prior to doing that has diminished. And there's a lot of literature, research from people that specifically just do kind of like light research that have shown there's massive changes in the body.
Right.
And so we try to educate people on, okay, you go find something online, like something that's super expensive doesn't mean it's always better. Something that's really cheap doesn't always mean it's worse.
Right.
Like, what do you try to look for? And so we've tried to come to the market and find something that's in a average price point with the industry that would make sense with it, but better products and knowing the data and the research on it. So like if somebody were to purchase something, I've written what's called biowisdoms, and biowisdoms are just, what is something specifically? So like somebody comes in for like low back pain. So what does the research show on how these things work for musculoskeletal pain?
Right.
Here's the data we give to you. We're also trying to partner with other clinicians like myself to add something for people that want to be proactive with it. And so we've got biowisdoms for the medical community as well. So now it gets more into the actual research that they'll understand. So we've written two different dynamics. So if you come in, you don't need to understand the literature on it.
Right.
We've condensed it and say, hey, here's the simplicity
Symptoms,
about how it works.
Solution.
Absolutely.
Are you building that into like a medical record system of something, or
no? Because it's not technically covered by insurance yet. However, the interesting thing with red light is there's one eye diagnosis that we found out that's actually being covered by insurance. How they chose the eye, I have no idea, but there's at least some trend where the medical community is saying like, okay, hey, that's beneficial.
Sure.
And I don't think people realize light's been used for a long time, and there's a reason why we get benefit from the sun. Just a different wavelength, a different intensity,
Vitamin
things
D.
like that. But you see a lot of like dermatology has been using red light for a really long time for skin.
Right.
People don't realize dentists use blue light and other stuff for teeth. Like it's been around. It's just never gotten into a kind of medical model of how do you actually implement it clinically. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is implementing this into patients. So while they're during treatment, but then say, hey, now that you're healthy, you're back to where you want to go. What else can we do preventatively to keep you from that? And so people, I think, like coming to our office. We're a little bit different than the average practice. And we got music blaring and, having fun. And it looks more like a modified gym.
Right.
People like that.
They like that.
And so some of them are like, well, I've heard about this. I've been somewhere else and I just didn't like the feeling about it. Or they'll ask people like about, how does it work, or what did this do? And their answer is like, they don't really know. Or they're like, well, let me get back to you and kind of find something on it. Or what would you like to do when you come in? We want to be the guiding force behind that. And so that's where we're merging wellness with the medical side. And really my perspective is wellness is medicine. It's just not a governed entity right now by some healthcare system, something else like that. But it is medicine. It's just on a different extent of it.
It's a lot better to take care of yourself in advance and not have to go in or, go in for a preventive procedure versus a post-injury.
And I think the hard part is people don't realize, like, you pay for your health one way or the other.
One way or another.
Like, and it's trying to convince them, would you rather pay to go from a diminished, injured, hurt phase just to get back to normal?
Right.
Or rather pay to be normal and get even better so you can do more of what you want.
Right.
But
and if you do have an incident, it's less impactful.
And then what we do is then you just get back on that kind of like the spectrum. And so the spectrum is kind of healthy or like normal, I would say. Unhealthy is the far extreme on one end, and then like beyond your normal health and progressing in ways that you've never been. So everyone's along that spectrum at some point in their life. Some people are more on the preventative, I'm always staying healthy and keeping more active. And some people just kind of get stuck in that medical model where they're always unhealthy, and the way they quote unquote feel better is getting stuck with traditional things that just never get them out of that position.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that.
So we talked, quite a bit about red light, but there's other things too.
Yeah.
One of the things that I see everywhere in my various feeds is cold plunge.
Yeah.
Do you guys do any of?
So cold plunge
recommend
is a
that?
little harder. So people have asked us about it, and so in a clinical setting for us, space is an issue.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a sanitary thing where that's a little harder with it. But so cold plunge is a huge thing. Or we kind of have a sister clinic that's out in Surprise that's using it. They have an infrared sauna, so it's heat.
Okay.
So both heat and cold change what's called either heat shock proteins or cold shock proteins. Those actually essentially release things because they see your body at an extreme state of either cold or hot, releases these proteins to help with healing and other dynamics with it. So cold plunge is definitely beneficial, and it really depends on the red light and some of the other stuff we offer have a very similar benefit with maybe different mechanisms. It comes down to people like kind of being crazy and getting in freezing cold water, and some people don't. So if there's ways that you can get the same thing accomplished and people prefer it, so like cryotherapy, like those cryo chambers have been around for a while.
Right.
It's the same thing. Those things are probably one of the most expensive wellness things on the industry.
Right.
Really hard to put in a home or a clinic. So that cold plunge is kind of taking the place of that a little bit. And now there's a lot of like at-home cold plunges, things like that people are doing. So there's definitely benefit. And I always tell people, I'm like, if I don't know exactly what you're asking, I'll research it and let you know. But for the most part, I know quite a bit about that, even though it's not what we do right now, but I have to know about it because it's part of that wellness industry.
Well, and like you said, even at home, putting in a cold plunge, you don't have the space. You have more flexibility with a portable red light than you do with a
And so it comes
permanent
down to, well, what are you looking to achieve? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And so we never want to be like, hey, we're going to sell you or have you use what we sell and what we have. Because then I feel like we lose credibility with our customers, right? Like, well, what are you looking for? Well, here's the benefits. Okay. Well, let me show you a couple different options that are the benefits.
Right.
Here's costs, right? Here's, positive, here's
Physical
negatives, all those
size.
things with it. Then what are you looking for? And what can we help you with to determine what's best for what you want and need?
Anything else you guys are emphasizing in your wellness?
I think the big thing is just the nutrition aspect is a big missing key for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm reading a book right now from a doctor that's kind of gone against the grain of traditional medicine. She was a surgeon and just was like, why are we seeing the same people with all these issues without getting out of there with it? And so the dynamic of saying that nutrition is medicine, like in its food and exercise, we go back to probably how things were designed to move and function. So how are we using either good or bad things that we're putting into our body to make a change, right? So the more bad things you put in, the more likely bad things are going to come out. The better things you put in, probably the better things that are going to come out. There's obviously no guarantees with that, but you got to think about just the premise.
I'd say the statistics are showing that we've been filling ourselves with ultra processed food and bad diet, bad meal timing.
Yep.
A lot. I'm that way. I mean, when I trained, I used to compete the men's physique contests, and I used to eat a lot all the time, every 3 hours. Boom, I would eat. Now I'll get in and forget to eat all day long.
Yeah.
So there's that, which undereating, undernourishing your body is not good any more than overnourishing and or eating the wrong things.
Well, and people don't realize that you have to actually eat more of the right things to lose weight or to be able to use that energy. And that's kind of a weird dynamic for them. So we have people that come in and we're like, hey, we don't do nutrition counseling ourselves, but I have groups that we kind of partner with like, well, they want me to eat to lose weight. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how the body functions. Like, and you get some people that are barely eating, whatever their baseline metabolic state is. And so they're just starving themselves.
Right.
I'm like, well, if your body goes into starve mode, it's going to save things to be able to be healthy and function. So that's why you retain more fats and things like that. And so it's just, I think there's a lot of bad or misunderstood information out there that people don't understand, or we get so sucked into, well, I've tried that and it didn't work. Well, did you do it correctly or how was it done? And so there's a lot of correcting actions and understanding of things, which education is half the battle for us. If you don't know what you're putting in or what you're doing, then like, why are you doing it?
Right. And Unwind would cover those types of strategies for your
Yeah,
clients?
we at least try to give people ideas. Like there's a group that's kind of local and they try to add the nutrition aspect, kind of a functional medicine doctor with them. So like we kind of talked about in with the medical side, like you can't be good at everything.
Right.
And so you got to know that if we can't do it ourselves, who do I partner, who do I work with that understands the same dynamic that we're trying to get to? And so I'll be like, hey, here's who we work with. You're looking for this. Here's this aspect that we cover. I know about what you're wanting to get. We just don't do it, but here's why we've partnered with them because that's what they're great at.
Good.
That's not what we're good at.
Good. All right. Sounds good. So one last chance to let people know, at least on the Unwind.
Yeah.
Is that's also in your center?
It is. It's in my same practice. So website is www.letsgounwind.com.
Let's go unwind.com.
Yeah,
great
creative.
URL.
That was my my doing of that. Simple-minded. So let's think about what we're trying to do. And our whole premise of it was because we work with like strategic partners as well of other clinics is like we want to unwind from an individual standpoint to like relax, unwind, like let the body heal, and then also unwind your business of like what can we do to make it different. So that's kind of how the Unwind name came about.
All right, sounds good. So let's go unwind.com.
Yeah.
To learn more on the preventive side, it covers more than just the physical components. You've got nutritional discussions. You've got alternative
and a lot of those, if they ever have questions, they can come in, talk to us, and we can kind of guide them in the right direction. We're obviously limited with all we can do, but we at least have resources for you.
All right, sounds good. Well, I think you gave us phone number earlier.
Yep, absolutely. And usually online is kind of one of the best things. We've got a lot of social media posts, but if you just go to the website, that's where all of our information is. That's probably the easiest because that's a little bit different than my medical side. That's where there's a lot of resources for people to look at to understand with it. So we usually recommend going there first. And then if you have questions on something, then that's when you can find us, call us, come in, things like that. But you can book appointments. You can get free information, which our bio is about, how this helps, all that stuff.
All right. Sounds good. And for all of you guys watching, subscribe to whatkeepsyouawake.tv, and we'll look forward to seeing you all on future episodes.